We're going to start with the president. The president gave one of his first interviews post coronavirus diagnosis today. And of course, he went on Fox Business News with Maria Bartiromo. And it was something. So we're gonna be going over this, okay, in some detail. It's a lengthy video, but hopefully it's not gonna take us too long, okay? With that being said, I think we're gonna jump right into it. And oh, hello, Platypus with Cheese. Always lovely to see you mewing in my chat. So let's throw this up here and we'll watch it together and have a little talk, okay? We'll have a little sit down about it.
We have a very dishonest media.
Welcome back. Good morning, everyone. As promised, now President Trump joining me live. The president telling his doctor, quote, "I feel great," in a memo released yesterday. Meanwhile, the president praised the Regeneron antibody cocktail, calling it, quote, "a cure," prompting the company to seek emergency FDA approval overnight. Joining me right now is the president.
He looks
of
awful,
the
by
United
the
States, in his
way.
first interview since his COVID-19 diagnosis, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you so much for being here. First question is, how are you feeling? How is the First Lady feeling this morning?
She's feeling good. I'm feeling good. Really good. I think perfect. And we're ready to go. I'm ready to go, except the quarantine situation.
There's no way that's true, by the way.
Get tested or whatever the procedure is. But I'm ready to do, I'm looking forward to doing the rallies. I heard that the commission a little while ago changed the debate style. And that's not acceptable to us. I beat him easily in the first debate, according to the polls that I've seen, but I beat him easily.
All of the polls, by the way, indicate that he lost the debate handily. Like, the polls swung by like 5 points in favor of Biden.
Was a disaster. But I beat him in the first
also,
debate.
those debates were like a while ago now. Like,
that's okay because
you just can't get off of it.
Also. And but I'm not going to do a virtual debate.
So Mr. President, you're not going to do it because the CPD, the Commission on Presidential Debates, announcing this morning that the second presidential debate will be virtual. Are you saying you're not going to participate?
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous.
You can sit behind a computer and do a debate just fine, guys.
I have a host who I always thought was a nice guy, but I see he's a never-Trumper. You know, came out that he's a never-Trumper.
Yes, he's disloyal to the party because he disagrees with me.
Because they don't like to win.
Yeah, he's doing a virtual interview. Interviews are different, though, you know?
They didn't even tell us about the debate, Maria.
So you just learned this morning?
Yeah, we learned it the same way you learned it. They called up 2 minutes ago, and it was announced. And they're trying to protect Biden. Everybody is. They're trying, like that NBC disaster where he went on
the Federal Election Commission to monitor the debates is trying to protect Biden. Right, exactly.
He says, we're not fracking.
Hello, Shadow Wolf.
He was fracking.
Welcome to the chat.
He was fracking. He was raising his very thin hand, and he was fracking. And now all of a sudden he's not fracking. Well, tell the Pennsylvania people that you're going. It's ridiculous.
What?
He said he's
what?
not fracking. That's
what?
all he said. And then all of a sudden he goes to a fracking mode. And how about her? She committed her life to it. And all of a sudden, she's a fracker. She's a big fracker. They're going to stop fracking the minute they get into office. They're lying to everybody.
Look, it'd be great if they stopped fracking, but they're not going to, okay, guys? Also, thank you, Anubis. Thank you.
But Mr. President, you say you're not going to do this debate. Address the
Hello,
criticism,
Onojin.
Mr. President. The criticism that you removed your mask for a photo op. You got to the top of the steps. You removed it. People are worried about your recent diagnosis. Now you've got 30-plus people with coronavirus in and around the White House. Address that concern for us, Mr. President, as you tell the Commission on Debates
not
you're
native.
not going to do this virtually.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I'm better. When to a point where I'd love to do a rally tonight. I wanted to do one last night, but I think
he thinks he's better, so he's not going to infect anybody.
I jokingly said 20 years ago, I feel perfect.
Like this is like the mental capacity of a sociopath, right?
That was
like, I feel
responsible for
good,
it.
so I couldn't possibly
Because of that, it
be
was sort of like
bothered
almost
about
a
other
gift
people
from
around me
heaven
getting sick.
because of what I went through, and I had I felt pretty lousy. A lot of people did. A lot of people do.
A lot of people
no matter how
died.
good the security,
200,000 people have died.
from this thing with just your standard anything,
Ooh.
unless you just literally don't come out. And even those people found out. Did you see in New York City, the most heavily locked down place, the people that caught it the most were the people that were caught in their houses and their apartments, okay? It's one of those things that... Yes, go ahead.
No, that's not what the data shows.
Mr. President, I'm glad you brought up New York, because yesterday, Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, said that the city is going to be on lockdown until November 3rd. Not November 2nd, November 3rd. Which, of course,
oh,
is
dang. Oh,
As
dang.
much as possible, the Democrats, they wanted November 3rd because
Maria
the
Bartiromo.
economy would hurt a little bit better. My numbers.
She's got her pulse
won't
on
be
the
as good.
conspiracy theories of
Actually,
America.
Our numbers are going to be great. Our numbers for the third quarter are going to be through the roof. Retail sales, employment. All of
yeah,
these numbers
Anubis.
are gonna be
He's
great.
he's
So I
doing
don't
that right
think
now.
it's a shame
He's
what's
doing that
happened to
right
your
now.
ghost town. It's like a sad place, New York.
Yeah,
So
and this
sad.
was your home.
I have friends living there.
You
They're
love
leaving.
New York. Look, I want to go back to the coronavirus for a moment, because the testing at the White House, I know, is incredible. And everybody gets tested every day. You can't even come in to see you without getting tested. Every precaution was taken to protect you. Anybody who came within feet had to be tested. How is it possible that you did contract the coronavirus, and what kind of protections are you putting in place now? You say you feel great, but the media is out there saying, well, you're contagious. Do you feel that you are? I mean, obviously...
It doesn't matter if you feel like you're... Oh, my
ready
God.
to go to a rally.
It doesn't matter if you
I
feel
don't
like
think
you're
I'm
contagious.
at all. Well, first of all, if
You
I'm
are,
at a rally, I stand
though.
myself very far away from everybody.
Holy
so
shit.
whether I was or not, but I still wouldn't go to a rally if I was contagious. But no.
But you wanted to do one yesterday.
I feel that I'm great. You catch this thing. A lot of people caught it. Look, you have the governor of Virginia. He wore a mask all the time. You'd never see the guy without a mask. He catches it. You have
Yeah, because the mask doesn't 100% guarantee that you're protected.
Tom Tillis, a very good guy who's, I think, now going to win his race.
Just
because
protects
his
other people.
His opponent happened to have not one affair, but two affairs.
Thank you for the subscription, Shadow Wolf. I appreciate it.
And I think Tom Tillis is going to win his race, and he should win it. He's a good man. But he was known as a mask, Mr. Mask, we call him. He caught it.
No one called him that. No one called him Mr. Mask.
It's particles of dust. It's tiny stuff. Now, as far as the White House is concerned, somebody got in. It was a day of celebration with Notre Dame, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody got in, and people got affected, whether it was there or something else. And remember this, when you catch it, you get better, and then you're immune.
No!
As soon as
That's actually not how it works for everybody.
What?
Holy
It's
shit.
amazing to me that you're... Tell me how you felt, what you went through. It's amazing to me that you're back in such strong form right now. How did that happen? You've been talking about Regeneron. Eli Lilly and Regeneron want FDA approval for emergency use at this point. Are they going to get it?
They're going to get it. Yeah, they're going to get it. I'm back because I'm a perfect physical specimen, and I'm extremely young.
He's a perfect physical specimen.
I'm lucky in that way.
Yeah, sure, bud. Sure, bud.
What were your
I don't
symptoms?
have
How did
any.
you
I don't
feel?
have heart problems. I don't have diabetes. I don't have any of the problems that you read about. Perhaps a couple of pounds we could lose here and there, but there's a lot of people in that category. But no, I'm in good health, and I'm, look, what happens is...
My dude, you went on TV yesterday and you looked like a mummy.
People caught it, and I'm not just talking about this location. I'm talking about many other locations. Now, what happens is you get better. That's what happens. You get better.
Or
Now,
you get better, or you don't. And you just have COVID for like 8 months. Or you die.
And I'm not
Like
even talking
200,000
about
people have.
Remdesivir is, fine. But the Regeneron...
My brain can't take this.
I view it as a cure, not just a therapeutic. I view it as a cure because I took it. And Eli Lilly has a great drug. I spoke to the head of it, David, last night.
That's right. Peach Knife Gang, rise up.
Very much along the lines of Regeneron. And they work in a very similar way. It's great.
Also, remember when the
And
Republican
what I'm
Party
doing
was
is
just
I'm going
like,
to supply
oh,
this drug. It made me
stem
better.
cells
I will
are
not use
bad
it
because
now.
they're made with
I walked in,
fetuses.
I didn't feel great.
Regeneron
Done
uses
it fine
fetuses
without
for the
drugs.
treatment he
You don't really
received.
need drugs. And they also like to give you steroids, like a steroid combination for a short period of time, because that stops the swelling. Like a baseball pitcher would use a steroid to, when his arm blows up.
Welcome, La
They
Mama.
want to stop the swelling of the lungs in particular. And so they gave me a steroid, which is a very easy thing to take. But no, I had tremendous
said it was a
luck with
blessing.
this Regeneron. And Eli
He
Lilly,
literally
what
called
I'm
the
doing
medicine he
now,
received a
and
miracle.
I don't know if you saw the video I made last
A
night.
miracle
I made
cure.
a video. I put
Yes,
it out.
I did. And you said it was a blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise. I'm glad, because I'm the leader. And I can't be like Biden, where I hang out in a basement every day. Sure, if I wanted to hang out in a basement, I wouldn't catch it, but I meet a lot of people, and I have to. I'm the president of the country. I can't hang around in a basement.
I feel like the president of all people should be the one hanging out in a basement during a pandemic.
For instance, Gold Star families. I met with Gold Star families. I didn't want to cancel that, but they all came in and they all talked about their son and daughter and father and.
He was
And,
wait.
you know,
Is he saying
they
he
all
was meeting
came
with
up to me
people
and they
while
told me a
he's
story.
sick?
It was really amazing, actually, beautiful but sad. And they'd come up and they'd tell me a story about my son, sir, was in Iraq or he was in Afghanistan. And, sir, he did this and he did that, and then he charged in order to save his friends. And, yes, sir, he was killed, but he saved his friends. He's so brave, sir. And they tell me these stories.
Yeah, at this point, I'm wondering if he
back
has
up
like
10 feet.
personal
I just can't do
investments
it.
in Regeneron
And I
as
went
well.
through, like 35 people, and everyone had a different story. I could also say, don't tell stories. They're telling the story of their son who just died, or daughter, or husband.
Remember
died in
when
a
Donald
war,
Trump like
or recently
called
died. You know, he was
a black
mostly over
soldier
the
who
last
had
10, 12
died
years,
and
but
basically
some
just
very recent.
dismissed
And I
his
can't
mother
back up, Maria, and say,
completely?
give me room.
Remember
I
that?
want room. Give me 12 feet. Stay 12 feet away when you talk. They come within an inch of my face sometimes. They want to hug me and they want to kiss me. And they do. And frankly, I'm not telling them to back up. I'm not doing it. But
You're the
I did
president
say
of the
it's
United States with a
it's
deadly
obviously
pandemic
dangerous.
disease.
It's a dangerous thing, I guess, if you go by the COVID thing.
You're
But
you're
I figured-
giving Gold
Look, I
Star
think it's
families
self-protecting that you
COVID-19.
Probably at some point
Holy
I'd catch it. Now,
shit,
get better.
guys.
That's what happened. I caught it. I could have been under the hospital in one day. I had the Regeneron. Now, I don't know what would have happened without the Regeneron. All I know is
Yeah,
they're
they're. By the way, they're the kids who died, suckers and losers, apparently, according to the
I
president.
wouldn't be able to speak to you.
And you are back in it, sort of knee deep in work again. I want to ask you about the stimulus
I was
plan,
yesterday,
Mr.
and the day
President,
before that, I worked from the hospital. I worked a full schedule.
Yes, someone had to sign all those blank
For aid
papers,
now,
guys.
You want aid for the airlines, for small business, $1,200 checks, but you just said that you were shutting down talks with Nancy Pelosi. How do you want to see aid play out, and what do you want as far as a priority
The One
on
American,
stimulus?
I think it's
Well, I
probably
shut down
safe
talks
to
2
say
days ago
that
because they weren't working out.
Donald
Now
Trump
they are
says some
starting to work
uncouth
out. We're
things
starting to have
behind
some
closed
very
doors about
productive
people,
talks.
especially
And
people
she
he
wants
considers
to happen,
weaker
too.
than
She
himself.
doesn't want it not to happen.
It's
I believe
basic
she wants it to happen,
sociopathic
wants it to happen,
behavior.
because it's so good for our country. We really need it. It wasn't our workers' fault. It wasn't our airlines' fault that China did this terrible thing to us. And I will
China
not be
didn't
forgetting
do
about that.
anything
China
to
did
us,
this.
dude.
This was all done by China. And
It's
we
not.
shouldn't
It's
be
not like
hurting
this
our
was a
workers because
chemical,
China put
like
the curse on us.
bacterial
This was
attack on the
a
United
horrible
States.
Scourge, a horrible thing that they did. And so
This is
I
just a
said,
way of twisting the
I
information
said, look,
to make
we're
it
not
seem
getting
like
anywhere.
we have
Shut
the
it
worst
down.
cases,
And
by the
I
way,
didn't want to waste time.
because China attacked
But in
us
any event,
deliberately.
after that, we got back. Both sides very capable. We got back. We started talking again, and we're talking about airlines, and we're talking about a bigger deal than airlines. We're talking about a deal with $1,200.
I mean, it's okay for
person,
the United
we're
States to
talking
look
about
after
other
its own
things.
interests. It's
But
just like
it's not anybody's fault.
painting
They were
China
trying to
as
get
a
things, and we
culprit
were trying
behind
to
this
get
is
things, and
silly, and
it
it's
wasn't
basically
going
just trying to
anywhere. I
pass
shut
the
it down. I don't wanna
responsibility
play
for
games. And then
the
we
massive
reopened,
failure
and
of this
I
pandemic
see the
onto
markets are
someone
doing
else.
well, but I think we have a really good chance of doing something. And Nancy Pelosi, look, she's not my favorite person. She impeached me for no reason. So when you get impeached for no reason, you have a little bit of a telltale lag. But, she impeached me over a phone call that was absolutely perfect, okay? And everybody knew it, and they never had a chance.
Perfect phone
And,
calls.
But, I still had to go through a process, which is ridiculous. So
Honestly, it doesn't
like
matter
The
where our
impeachment
first cases
trial-
came from.
the
Like,
impeachment
it might have come
trial
from Europe. I think maybe
was
like
not
some
based- was
business
not
people
based
traveling
on
from
any
China.
actual
Because there
crime.
were travel
But I wanna talk
restrictions,
about
but the
that
travel
because you've been facing
restrictions
incredible
from China were
resistance
easily kind of circumvented
your
by
entire
American
term,
business
and
people.
you've taken some real bold action this week, authorizing the disclosure of all of the documents related to the Russia
And because we
hoax.
weren't
Mr.
like really on the
President,
ball with
we
it,
now know from these documents
the
that John
people who came
Ratcliffe
here who were infected from
unveiled
China
that it
were
was
not
Hillary
quarantined
Clinton's
properly.
idea to tie you to Russia in some way. It was successful. The whole country was talking about it for 2.5 years. But what comes next, Mr. President? We can have all of these documents. We can see exactly what happened. But unless John Durham comes out with a report or indictments, unless Bill Barr comes out with some kind of a ruling here, do you think this is resonating on
Exactly,
the
the one
American
American. Exactly.
Unless Bill Barr indicts these people for crimes, the greatest political crime in the history of our country, then we're going to get little satisfaction unless I win, and we'll just have to go because I won't forget it. But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama and it includes Biden. These are people that spied in my campaign, and we have everything. Now they say they have much more. Okay.
Guys, I just want you to reflect on what you just heard the President of the United States say. Over his impeachment, he just said that Bill Barr should indict and charge his Donald Trump's political opponents, including Obama and Biden, which is unprecedented in the history of the United States. Absolutely insane fascist talk here, okay?
Okay. And I say, Bill, we got plenty. You don't need any more. We got so much, Maria. Even just take a look at the Comey report, 78 pages of
Like, if
film.
Donald Trump
Doesn't
had
borrow
control
it.
over the
And
courts,
I
he
got a
would
lot of respect for Barr with
100%
it. He
arrest
said
these people.
prosecute. He recommended prosecute, and they didn't prosecute. I couldn't believe it, but they didn't do it because they said we have much bigger fish to fry. Well, that's okay. They indicted Flynn for lying, and he didn't lie. They
And
destroyed many
that one
lives.
American, I agree.
Roger
There are lots of
Stone
things
over
that China
nothing.
needs to be
They
pressured
destroyed
for
lives.
by
Look
the
at
international
Manafort. They
community.
sent in a black book that was a phony black book. Phony.
I just don't
They
think
made up a black
COVID is
book
really one of those
cash
things.
that he got from Ukraine or
I do
someplace.
think that the
And he
Uyghur
didn't get
concentration
any cash.
camps
It was a
need to be
phony
addressed
book.
by,
What
you know,
they've done
the
to
world
people-
at large, but
Brennan,
among
John,
other things.
we're going to have Carter Page coming on. He's going to tell his story, and we just heard from George Papadopoulos. Their lives have been completely changed. John Brennan briefed President Obama on this. What else is needed to ensure that the American people understand what took place, trampling on American people's rights and liberties before the election?
Look, we have all the evidence in the world. In addition to that, I released everything, every document.
We have all
I
the
don't care
evidence
what
in
it
the world,
pertains
and
to.
yet
I
we're not going to
released
do
everything.
anything.
I've declassified. I'm the only
And we
one in the
haven't been
country
doing
that has
anything.
the power to do that. I've declassified everything. I did it a year ago, actually, for Bill Barr.
Yeah, they've had a
Declassified
year,
everything.
supposedly.
So they would know this, so there's not a document they can't have. But it's still
Is
not
this-
that easy. You have a deep state.
this is-
you have a group of people.
Yeah.
that
This
don't
is
wanna
basically
have
him saying Bill
documents
Barr
shown,
is part of the
which
deep
tells you
state
bad
for
thing,
not
but
indicting
they
his
have to
political
give up,
opponents.
ultimately, and we're getting them. You know, yesterday, John Ratcliffe was terrific. He gave over 1,000 pages of documents in that people couldn't get. And they're breaking down. The FBI is slowly but surely giving us
What
what they want,
documents?
disappointing how they're
But
responding.
how come we haven't seen this stuff before? We had a Mueller report.
Yeah, pretty
Michael
weird,
Horowitz
right,
report,
Maria?
Senate
Pretty
Intel
weird. We
report.
haven't seen
And
this
where
before.
was Christopher Wray in all of this? Let me ask you, Mr. President, address Christopher Wray. Will you replace him in a second term?
Well, I don't want to say that yet. He's been disappointing. He talks about, even the voting thing, that he doesn't see the voting ballots as a problem. There are thousands of ballots right now. You pick up any paper in the country practically, and they're cheating all over the place on the ballots. So how is that not a problem? That's a much bigger problem than
They're
China
not
and Russia.
cheating.
If you look at it, it's a much bigger problem.
There is no
when you
evidence
say
of
that, I
voter
don't see that as a
fraud.
problem. Pick up the newspaper and read. And they lost 1,000 ballots or were defrauded in North Carolina. 500 ballots were sent to Virginia erroneously. You look at what happened in.
Yeah, but it doesn't
just take a
matter
look at
if
what happened in
more
New
ballots
York
are
with
sent
the
out because each
Carolyn
person
Maloney
only
race.
gets
It was
one
a
vote.
disaster
And
how
it's
they
checked
were able
against
to give
them
her
when
that
they
victory.
count up the
I don't know the
votes.
other guy who was a Democrat in the primary, but it was
in
just a
LA
small
County.
primary. Well, you take a look at
This
that.
morning as
Look at
well,
what happened.
more
Look at
than
what happened
2,000,
yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
More than 2,000 LA County ballots printed, mailed without presidential election, without the presidential race on the ballots.
I forgot to put my name on
ballots
the
are being
ballot.
thrown in the trash.
That's
Ballots
right.
are being sent to dead people. I have another story every day on this situation.
Yeah,
What are you
but
gonna
the
do
votes
about it,
get
Mr. President?
checked.
If they cheated in 2016, they're going to cheat again. How are you going to stop this and ensure that you have the wherewithal to fight back if it's all ballot lies?
2,000 ballots.
Joe Biden has
They forgot one
800
minor
lawyers.
detail.
800 lawyers.
They
How many
forgot
lawyers
one
do you
minor
think Donald
detail to
Trump
put my
has?
name on
He's
the
the
ballot.
president
Other
of the
than that,
United
ballots were wonderful,
States.
right? These are cheaters. These are con men. These are cheaters that we're dealing with in Nevada. They don't want to have any signature on the ballots. He's a real beauty. You know, he comes out of the political party. He got to be governor. You can't even get a site. If you want to make a speech in Nevada, you can't even get a site. I got a site because I'm president, but you can't even get a site. It's very hard to get a political site to make a speech for, to have thousands of people show up. They have them all over the place. But
Is
you know,
he
makes
just
it so
talking
that
about
it's
the
very difficult.
difficulties of...
Anybody else can't get a site. And he's in charge of the
He's just
ballot.
talking about the
And,
difficulties of
there's big
getting
things happening
the
out there.
authorization
Now,
to
we have
gather a
law
large
enforcement
number of
watching
people
him
together during a
very
pandemic.
Strong. U.S. attorney is watching him very strongly. The U.S. Marshal is watching. In New Mexico, a state that I think we can win, we have the U.S. Marshal and the U.S. attorney watching him. So it's not easy for them because we got people watching nobody ever had. But it's a corrupt system because they're sending out millions of ballots. Now, when you send out millions of ballots, when you're the sender, you can send them wherever you want. You can send them to Democrat areas, Republican areas. You don't have to send them at all. Mailmen are being, as you know, indicted. One was indicted yesterday in New Jersey. Another one was indicted in West Virginia. Mailmen.
This is absolutely, this is just absolutely unhinged, by the way, and not based in reality.
A lot of ballots. I don't know how many, but it's a lot. They found trays of ballots.
You're the president. Why don't you know how many ballots are on a tray?
With my name on military ballots. 8
Yeah,
ballots with
this
my
story.
name on it in a
This
waste
story.
paper basket
8 ballots were
in another good
misplaced.
state.
Eight
No, it's a
ballots were
terrible thing.
misplaced on a military base.
Maria, then when you bring it up, oh, he's not for freedom. He's
And I
not
believe
for
only
a
like
smooth
3 of them had his
transfer.
name on them.
You know.
So like, yeah, that's evidence of
Well,
mass
they keep bringing
voter
up
fraud
the
right
fact
there.
that you will not say, if I lose, I will leave the White House, Mr. President. And Hillary Clinton told Joe Biden he needs to contest this election, not concede at all. So what do you think? Is this election going to be
I'll tell you what I
contested
think.
if you win?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think. If you were running for office, and if you see thousands and thousands of ballots being thrown into rivers, and they have your name on it in some cases. In other words, we had military
These
ballots, but
hypotheticals
people
aren't
voted for me.
happening.
The military is going to vote for me because I rebuilt the military. I love the military. Despite their phony story that they made up about standing in a grave, it's a totally made-up story. They don't even have any witnesses. They made it up. And that's why they're lowlifes, because then they made it up and then they went with a story. They know it wasn't true, but they use it all the time.
What?
Actually, it was Joe Biden that called the military a bunch of dirty bastards, and he said it on tape. He called them a bunch of dirty bastards, and he said it on tape. Nobody brings that up. The press doesn't bring that up. They made up a story with me about what I said. It's the most angered I was on this campaign when they did that. I said, now the gloves are off. Let the gloves be off.
In fact,
Let the gloves be
one of
off.
your priorities has been to
Sure,
bring
bud.
the troops back home. This is your latest, from Afghanistan. What can you tell us? You say you think all of the troops will be home by Christmas, or are you looking at mid-2021?
Shortly by the end of the year, yeah. So what's happened is, we're in negotiations. But look, the other side's tired of fighting, too. 19 years. It's been 19 years. And I've been bringing them home. We're down to 4,000 troops in Afghanistan, and I'll have them home by the end of the year. They're coming home, as we speak. And 19 years is enough. They're acting as policemen, okay? They're not acting as troops. We have the greatest troops in the world. I wiped out 100% of the ISIS caliphate. I killed Soleimani. I killed al-Baghdadi.
By the way, the Joe Biden
Everybody
comment
bigger
about
names than
calling the
Osama bin
troops
Laden.
stupid bastards
Al-Baghdadi founded ISIS.
was a joke.
Soleimani
In the
was
wider
worst
clip,
terrorist in
he goes on
50
to tell
years.
the troops that he is
I
directly
killed both
talking
of them.
to
Nobody could find them until I
how much
came
he
along.
appreciates their
But we've done a
service.
great
You know,
job.
it's
Our
his
soldiers have been fantastic. I've rebuilt
cheeky
our military. I want our military home.
old
Because you know
shoe
what? We're
leather
all over the
attitude
world.
shining
We're in all
through.
these different
You know,
sites fighting in countries that nobody ever heard of. And it hurts us because you wear out your
like
military.
that's why it's
And
not
we
being
have to
used
be
in
always
attack
prepared
ads,
for
because
China
clearly
and
in
Russia and these
context
other
it's
places.
totally
we have
fine.
To be prepared. Maybe North Korea. Whatever happened to North Korea, by the way? Remember, we were going to be in a war with North Korea. We're getting along very well. And you know,
And
we
you
could have lost,
stepped over the
we could have lost a
DMZ,
couple
I
of
know
million
that.
people. Hey, we could have lost a couple of
That
million
did not
people in
come
North
up at
Korea.
the debate last night.
Hey, we could have lost a couple million people,
What was
eh?
your reaction to the debate last night?
They don't bring it
Just
up
like
as a
flippantly
story.
talking about millions of people dying.
Pence accused the Biden campaign of plagiarism when it comes to what his plan is. It looks awfully similar to your plan in terms of bringing jobs back to America, firing up the manufacturing industry here. What was your reaction to the debate? What wasn't said that you would have liked to come out? And where do you think the most striking moments were?
I thought that wasn't even a contest last night. She was terrible. She was, I don't think you could get worse, and totally unlikable. And she is. She's a communist. She's left of Bernie. She's rated left of Bernie by everyone.
Kamala Harris is not a communist. And this is stuff like, it's this kind of stuff that makes like the suckers and losers comment that multiple anonymous sources across 4 different outlets reported about Donald Trump that much more believable, as opposed to Joe Biden's stupid bastards comment. He'll just say things and he means it in the moment. Like, Donald Trump legitimately believes that Kamala Harris is a communist because it serves his ends at this particular moment in time. Like, I wish as an honest lefty that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were as radical as the right-wing extremists for Trump say that they are, but they're just not, guys. They're just not. Now, granted, I think Kamala Harris is actually a lot better than a lot of lefties give her credit for. I think a lot of people got stuck on the narrative of her like prosecutorial record, which, to be clear, is not good, but she's also definitely not a communist. She has voted for more progressive policies, and by some metrics has actually gotten more progressive policies passed than, say, Bernie Sanders. But those are in some very narrow regards. She is very much still within the liberal umbrella. I would not consider her a progressive leftist. However, she is also better than the majority of Congress on a lot of issues. So, things to keep in mind. But the idea that she's a communist, that she like supports the that she supports worker control over the means of production, and like the abolition of the commodity form and the abolition of the state, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. She doesn't support any of those 3 things, which you would need if you were in favor of communism. So, let's keep our heads grounded in reality as we listen to this lunatic continue to spout off things that are absolutely not true.
We're going to have a communist, and she's going to be, in my opinion, within a month. Look, I stood next to Joe, and I looked at Joe. Joe's not lasting 2 months as president. Okay, that's my opinion. Well, he's not going to be lasting 2 months.
Is he saying that Joe Biden's going to die?
He didn't take his ads down. It was all nonsense. He never took his ads down. No, she's a communist. She's not a socialist. She's well beyond a socialist. Take a look at her views. She wants to open up the borders to allow killers and murderers and rapists to pour into our country. We have the tightest...
Okay. Does anyone out there actually think conservative or liberal or far-right extremists think that the actual platform of the Democratic Party is specifically Yeah, we're gonna open up the borders, and we want rapists and murderers to come in. Like their priority. Bring in more rapists and murderers. Like, no, that's that's not what that's not what their policies are, guys. Like, their policies are opening up the borders slightly more than Donald Trump has closed them, and maybe providing a pathway to citizenship for people who have been here for like a decade, or like kids who grew up here and have never, no memory of living anywhere else. Like stuff like that, which is totally reasonable. And framing it as these people, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to bring in rapists and murderers is absolutely ridiculous.
This borders we've ever had right now. I have the wall is up to 350 miles long. It'll be finished very soon. It's had a tremendous impact. And frankly, we're working along very well with Mexico. But it's hard to get into our country. And when we do have people in our country that are bad, I throw them out. We're throwing out tens of thousands of people, and they're murderers, and they're rapists. She wants to allow...
Most of the people being thrown out of the United States are not murderers or rapists. They're just people coming here to have a better life. They're just coming here so that they can work safely without the threat of being killed in gang violence, and to make slightly higher wages than what they might make in Mexico. That's what they're doing. And you know what? A lot of them pay taxes. In fact, immigrants are a net boon to our economy. They actually improve the United States' economy. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oops, sorry, I just have to do a little ban here of a little bot ban. There we go. And continuing on with this charade.
Allow everybody to stay in our country. Look at the manifesto. Bernie lies about all this stuff because, Bernie is the guy that's been crazy Bernie. He's the one that's really angry, and so is AOC because, he thought that they had a man in Biden that was going to agree to what they agreed to. And that's...
No. No one on the progressive left had any illusions about Joe Biden's stance. Okay? No one on the progressive left was like, oh, yeah, Joe Biden, he's our guy. He's basically a communist. No, he's not. He's basically a very milquetoast liberal. Okay, guys? He's almost our last option. Maybe Pete Buttigieg would have been like the worst option. Maybe Amy Klobuchar would have been a worse option too. But Joe Biden is not our guy. Okay.
No fracking.
He never has been.
Borders, sanctuary cities, all of this stuff. He's still probably going to do sanctuary cities because
they're not for open borders at all. They are pro fracking, and I'm not entirely sure what their stance is on sanctuary cities, but probably respecting the authority of local governments is something that is big on their list. Something that the Trump administration has been keen to override because they're fascist.
That for whatever reason.
Well,
but Maria, just to finish, he goes out and he says no fracking for months during the Democrat debate.
She looks as perplexed on the outside as I feel on the inside.
Will never go for him because Pennsylvania has 1 million jobs that are fracking. Fracking is energy. That's what they do now, fracking. And you got 1 million jobs that are energy. Their energy costs would triple if they didn't do fracking.
You know what also would provide more than 1 million jobs? Switching over to green energy. Green energy would actually be cheaper. And you know what? Building the infrastructure would create probably, I'm going to be conservative, tens of millions of jobs. Like a huge sector of our economy would be dedicated to building green infrastructure and maintaining that infrastructure. And it would be better for the environment. So like defending fracking is actually like a lesser, like a less good position than advocating for the changes that we need to make in order to preserve our planet.
energy costs in our country would quadruple if we didn't frack. So he goes around bragging up to the liberal Democrats, to the radical left, there'll be no fracking. Then he gets on the stage in a more normal time with people like that are normal, like us, that have to have fracking for the jobs, for the cost, for the air. We're energy independent now because of fracking. He says, oh, yes, I'll frack. Take a look at the pictures. I'm sure you've seen them 100 times. Take a look at him denying there will be no fracking. That's his exact quote. There will be.
Yeah, and then,
she made it even more emphatic. She laughed about it.
She said it was a fact that she said that's a fact. She sort of put an exclamation point on it. But this was one of your key themes in terms of turning the economy around. You opened up the spigot on energy along with cutting taxes.
Yeah, just to be clear, Biden's fracking policy has been in his energy plan. You can look it up on his website. He's pro fracking.
What else do you want to do in terms of tax cuts in a second term? Do you want to?
We're cutting middle income taxes. We're cutting middle income taxes substantially. They know that.
Yeah, middle income taxes of $1 million a year or above.
Regulation cuts. He's going to put all the regulations back on. It's going to take you 20 years to build a highway. I took highway construction down for 19 years to probably 1 by the time I totally finish it.
What?
To get it. And
no.
If it doesn't work, it's going to get rejected for environmental or safety reasons. But he's going to.
Yeah, it should be rejected for environmental or safety reasons if you're not building a dependable roadway. That's what the regulations were for. Regulations are good, actually, guys.
Put them back. It was taking you 20 years to get a road approved. 20 years to get a road. You think of it, you start as a young man. By the time you're a middle-aged man, they haven't approved it. And in many cases, then they reject it. You couldn't get anything approved. You couldn't get plants approved. You couldn't get energy approved. You couldn't get anything. It was so crazy. I showed you that list of things that you had to go through to get a permit in this country for a simple factory. Yes. It was 30 feet high. I've taken it down to a year from, it could be 20 years, it could be 15, could be 12. It was massive. And what that would do, it stopped everything. I think that was, frankly, a bigger thing than even the tax cuts. But
it's really impressive, actually, how he's able to just talk in such generalities.
Jobs, all of the companies that are pouring into our country, of which there are many, especially car companies from Japan and Germany and other places, they're going back. They're going to go back. If you do that, they're going to go back because our taxes were so onerous and our regulations were so onerous.
Guys, the reason companies go abroad is not because of taxes. They go abroad because labor abroad is cheaper. It's cheaper to move your factory to Mexico because you don't have to pay the workers as much. It's cheaper to move your factory to China because you don't have to pay the workers as much. Our country is expensive to do business in. We need, we're talking hey, you have to pay your workers $9 an hour here. In Mexico, you might only have to pay your workers $4 an hour. In China, you might only have to pay them $2 an hour. That's why. And you know what? That's capitalism. That's the thing that Republicans say that they love so much, right? That's just capitalism in action. You're going where the labor is cheapest, where the labor supply is more readily available. And it just so happens that that's not in the United States. And there are ways we could fix that, but blaming it on high taxes is not going to fix the problem. Even if you give the biggest tax cut in history, which, by the way, the Trump administration did. They cut taxes by I think, if I'm remembering right, 1.6 trillion over 10 years. That might actually be a low number, by the way, for how much they cut taxes under Trump. It still hasn't really solved the problem that he's talking about right here. So this is just crazy talk. It's crazy talk that is meant to build the foundation for later going, well, time to cut more taxes. And, it's going to benefit the people on the bottom very little, but it's going to benefit the people on the top very much.
That even if they wanted to come, I have many car companies coming into this country. You know, when I first started, we hadn't had a car company come in many years.
True, Archangel DeKalb.
They weren't
Socialism
coming
is
into this
evil because
country.
I
This
want to
country
choose
was
to be
well
dirt poor and
Now
have
they
no
take
health
advantage
care.
of it. They make their car in Japan,
Yeah,
Germany,
like
China,
I want
and
to
then
be
sell it
poor
into our
and
company, our
have no
country.
health
We wouldn't
insurance,
charge.
so
We'd
that
have
if I have a
maximum
stroke,
2%
it's not it's
tariff,
going to cost
but we
me
wouldn't even
you know
charge them that.
$15,000. You know
And
that's what I
saved the
want.
chicken tax
Okay.
on the truck with South Korea. They were going to wipe out the
I want to
chicken tax.
die
It's 25% tax.
tens of thousands
If it
of
wasn't
dollars
for
in
me,
debt
that tax
in the
would be
gutter.
nothing
That's
right
what I
there. It's
want.
the only thing
That's
they make
freedom.
money on
Well,
because they can't compete.
Well, China did not come up very much last night in the debate either, and you have been keeping, the pressure on China to ensure
It did come
that
out a
they
little bit.
change their bad behavior.
Kamala Harris attacked
What
Mike
is your
Pence
take
on
where we are in that
losing
in terms
the
of the
trade
Chinese
war with
Communist
China.
Party? They're still stealing intellectual property. Are you expecting to put?
Here's another thing. China does have lax intellectual property laws. That's true. However, one of the big things that China basically made a trade-off for way back in the day was that they would provide cheap labor, and in return, they would gain access to more advanced technology. And now that they have the means to create this more advanced technology, and indeed, in a lot of ways, their technology is now surpassing the United States', now we're freaking out after having taken advantage of their cheap labor for like 20 years, or 30 years even. The issue is that their authoritarian government can and does have the power to look ahead and enforce policies that are years in advance. Like I remember maybe 10 years ago, people were making fun of, oh, China's building all of these cities and they're totally empty. That's so weird. Well, the reason that they were doing that was so that when China grows and people become more urban or need to move to more urban centers, they have the infrastructure already built. They were pre-building the infrastructure. And that's not to say that China is doing everything, like everything China's doing is good, because obviously that's not the case. As Abu Hashish 710 points out in chat, China has concentration camps. That's really bad, and the international community should be coming together to condemn those and put pressure on China to end that practice. However, the United States also has concentration camps. So we as Americans need to get our act together to abolish our own concentration camps, and then work on the concentration camps that are in other countries. It's a practice that should be outlawed. Unfortunately, in the United States, we are among the most pioneering of spirits when it comes to concentration camps, because back when we first established the U.S.-Mexican border, we also basically created concentration camps in the United States back then as well. So, like, we have a long history of doing that along our border, and we should address both those problems as soon as possible. Trump does not seem interested at all in addressing the United States' problem with concentration camps, nor does he seem interested at all in addressing the Chinese problem with concentration camps. The Uyghurs deserve so much better and so much more international support than they have gotten thus far. I mean, people in our concentration camps are being held in close proximity together during a pandemic and dying of a pandemic, and also being sprayed with chemical irritants that are explicitly not made to be inhaled, and they're being sprayed with that every half hour. So, like, we're also separating families and keeping children in cages. Sexual abuse is very rampant and has long been an unknown problem in the United States' concentration camps. We deny medical care in our camps. There are a whole lot of problems in the United States' concentration camps. That doesn't mean that the Uyghur concentration camps aren't worse in some ways. Maybe they're better in others. I don't know enough about them. That's one of the problems, is that we don't know enough about those camps. But it's very clear that both practices should be stopped. Both practices are incredibly unethical and incredibly harmful to human life, and it seems obvious to me that both are incredibly bad. I see no contradiction in saying both are bad, and both absolutely meet the criteria for concentration camps. Okay, there's really no debating on that issue.
More tariffs on China in a second term.
The deficit.
Holy shit, Abu Hashish. A war with China would be devastating for the entire world. Okay, like. Yes, people in ICE concentration camps are tortured to death, my dude. And also, a war with China would be catastrophic for the entire world. You would see death on a scale you've never seen since World War II, and most likely beyond that. Wishing for that kind of a war is stupid as shit, and you should be ashamed of yourself for, like, wishing that upon the world. Like, that is absolutely the most biggest brain take I've seen in a while, and you should really rethink your position on that, because it is A, stupid as shit, B, incredibly violent and awful, and would kill far more Americans and far more innocent Chinese people than any other possible solution to that you could think of. So maybe rethink your position, because wishing for war should be the last recourse of any sufficiently advanced civilization. Okay, it's not going to be like two guys going out onto a field and dueling. It's going to be blood and guts and explosions and millions of innocent people dying on both sides. So anyway, I'm not a China apologist. A lot of things that China does and infringes on human rights, that's very bad. If you can't understand that I'm not being an apologist for China, and that I'm just pointing out some of the economic things that they have done that work, and are actually good things that maybe we should look into emulating, and you can't divorce their economic policies in that regard from their concentration camp policies and their violations of human rights, that's just you not having a brain able to comprehend a complex and interconnected world, okay? So you need to get a little bit more educated before you come in here and talk about, yeah, we want to go to war with the largest country on the planet, and we want to kill billions of Chinese people, okay? That's just you very clearly showing your racist colors on here, okay? And I don't appreciate it.
It was coming way down with China for the first time in 30 years. Way, way down with China. I was okay. Sorry. Abu Hashish, I was under the impression that when you were talking about concentration camps that you had some degree of caring for people. But okay, you're just being silly. You're being a troll. I get it now. Okay. I'm not mad anymore, because you're just being silly for a joke here. Like, your stance is that you simultaneously are disgusted by concentration camps, but you also don't care about people. So if you don't care about people, then stop pretending like you give a shit about concentration camps and just admit that you hate Chinese people. Like, just go mask off. Like, I would respect you far more if you just came in here and were talking about how you hated Chinese people. Because at least you would be honest about where you're coming from. Instead, you're doing like this weird concern trolling, and A, it's very cringe, and B, like, just advocate for your actual position, my dude. I've been very clear about what my position is regarding China, and regarding the concentration camps, and what should be done in that regard. Instead, you're like hiding your views behind like this like facade, and it's very strange, and it causes you to argue for positions you don't actually hold, and it wastes everybody's time. So stop wasting my time. Just argue what you're actually in favor for, okay? Gosh. You don't know, I don't know that there are two different types of Chinese people. Fun fact, my dude, there are like
way more than two types of Chinese people. Okay? I believe China is one of the most ethnically diverse countries on the planet. There are 2 billion people in there that encompass hundreds of different ethnicities. So you're just showing your ignorant ass in chat, and it's very funny. But again, like I said earlier, you probably need more education on this topic, okay?
Taken in billions of dollars. I took in $28 billion. I gave the money to the farmers because the farmers were targeted by China as a way to get me to negotiate. I said, no, instead of that. And that's
But also,
why
I love you
other
very much, and I
presidents,
hope you do
a
get
more
better
normal
someday,
type
okay? I hope you
president, like a
overcome
Sleepy Joe
your
type.
racism and your
China
ability to
ripped them
spell.
off for years and years. I said to China, listen, you want to play games, so what they do is they say, listen, if you don't give us everything we want, we're not going to buy any corn, and we're not going to buy soybeans, and we're not going to buy beef. And I said, that's okay, don't buy it. I went to the farmers. I said, look, we got to play a game with these people, but I'm going to put tariffs on you. Nobody ever even heard of tariffs. They never even heard of tariffs.
Yep,
Nobody.
no
In fact,
one's
when I
ever
first
heard of
started doing
tariffs,
it,
the
they didn't even
economic
know what it meant.
tool
said,
that
I'm
has
gonna
been
put
around for
tariffs on you to the
centuries.
equivalent that you target. Yeah, to the equivalent that you target our
put them on
farmers,
their
I'm going to
heels,
put
for
tariffs
sure.
on you. We have a
By the
lousy
way, the
phone
United
bill.
States
Mr.
lost the
President,
trade war with
we're just
China.
getting this
China
breaking
is
news
a
that the
growing
initial
economic
jobless
power,
claims are
and
out.
they
It
have
was a
way more
little
production
higher.
capability
It
than
was
the US does.
840,000 versus an estimate of 820,000. What about the economy, Mr. President? How are you going to get back to the boom times that we were in before COVID arrived? You had an unemployment rate of 3.5%, the lowest that anybody had seen in some portions of the country. Are you going to use the same playbook to get us back? Give us some of the tools you'll use in a second term.
Yeah, we are. Well, I'm going to use tariffs on China because they want to take them off. We're getting billions of dollars. I was going to tell you that we get $28 billion because our farmers, that's what they got targeted for. I gave all of the money to the farmers, and we had tens of billions left over, which goes into the
Yeah,
Treasury.
we
China
gave
was
so
getting
many
killed. We were
billions to
building, don't
farmers.
forget,
That's
I've
how
been a
much
trade
we're
reporter
winning,
for a long
son.
time. The year 2019, China, if you go back 10 years, 2019, China takes us over as the largest economy on earth. Well, prior to this plague coming in, and still, by the way, but prior to the plague coming in, China was doing lousy compared to us. We were upping them.
Wait, he just said they overtook us in 2019 in
we
economy, and they're
we
doing
were way
lousy.
ahead of China.
All right.
China was never going to catch us if we had a smart guy as president. And the tariffs were pouring in billions of dollars. Then I made the trade deal, and it was a really good deal. They broke it, if you remember. I made a bigger trade deal, and they broke it at the last minute. With 2 days left, they broke the deal. They said, we can't agree to this, you know, the opening up of China and all the things. So I broke off the deal. Then they came back, and I made a partial. There was a deal a good deal for manufacturers, farmers, you know, et cetera. It was more of it was modest, but it was still a massive deal. Not as big as USMCA, by the way, if you can believe that. Mm-hmm. But I made a great deal with China. And our farmers, you know, 2 weeks ago, they made the largest order of corn in history, the largest order of soybeans in history, because they want to keep me happy, because they know that I'm a hair trigger when it comes to them, and I'm sick of them. Everything that we have.
Rah, rah, I'm so strong. I'm strong man. I'm the only one who can fix the problem.
Because of them, this isn't the first time. And by the way, the N1, H1N1 that he always calls it N1H1. The swine flu, which is
Abu Hashish, like you know that Nazis and communists are not the same thing. Like those two things are like antithetical to one another. Like just look at World War II, my dude. The communists utterly crushed the Nazis. But yeah, it's pretty. You're spouting some silly. You're spouting some silly sauce in chat right now. I just want you to be aware of that, okay?
Is H1N1. We try to tell them every time I have to correct them on that. But that big deal. If you look at that, he did a horrible job of running it. It was a joke. His own person. Ron Plain.
Again, the H1N1 flu killed 14,000 people, which is a fraction of what the COVID virus has killed.
And one is too many because it was China's fault. But if he ran this,
Mr.
you would have.
President-
Remember the original projection, Maria, was 2.2 million
Yeah.
people will die if it's not handled properly.
That's right.
Well, we're at
You have
200,000,
so
over
much that you're-
200,000.
In America, yeah. You have so much that you're dealing with, and now you want to get your next Supreme Court justice confirmed before the election. Do you still feel that you can do that and confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court
we know that
in the
the
next
Republican
25
vote.
days?
By the way, Abu
If we don't,
Hashish,
it's the
you're
Republican.
Palestinian. You know that China is one of the few countries that recognizes Palestine as like a legitimate country, right? Like they've been supporting Palestine since the 1980s. Like, just letting you know there, bud. Just letting you know, okay?
Fault, because there's no reason why not. Look, I'm president, and it's happened 29 times. She made another mistake last night when she said about Lincoln. She was wrong on that, of course. You know, they say things like we go over it. They say we're not going to do this, and they're going to do it. They just make. I've never seen such liars as this. They're worse than crooked Hillary. She was worse in other ways. She was worse when she deleted 33,000 emails illegally. And
Also, like, you understand that you can say that some aspects of a thing are good, and other aspects of a thing are bad. I hope that you can understand like that very basic concept, because that's what a lot of people do with China when they're talking about things that China has done right versus a lot of things that China has done wrong. Kind of like how the United States does some things right and a lot of things very wrong. Kind of like that. It turns out countries are not just pure good or pure bad. Turns out a lot of them are very mixed in different ways. And we should focus on fixing the things that are bad about the countries that humans have built, okay? Because we can fix those problems, okay? And our first resort to fix those problems probably shouldn't be a nuclear holocaust that engulfs the entire globe. Just a thought.
And she should be indicted for that. If people delete emails in a regular court case, she deleted 33,000 emails and nothing happens to her. Our justice system, nothing happens to her. With all of the pages of stuff, thousands of pages that we have on them, nothing happens to them. Nothing happens.
Well,
And
this
you know,
is what
I
I'm
said I'm
saying.
going to
This
not
is what
get
I'm saying.
involved, but
I
I'm
mean,
going to have to get involved because
John
these people are crooked people.
declassifies all this stuff. It's sitting on
Calling
his
for the
desk,
arrest of
1,000
Hillary
pages
Clinton.
sitting
Very
on
classy,
A.G.
Donald
Barr's
Trump.
desk. What is
I
he going
don't
to
know
do
why they're
about it?
not doing it. I don't know why they're not doing it. I don't know. I don't know why. You'll have to call Bill and ask why.
A couple of weeks ago. You and I had an interview a couple of weeks ago for my upcoming book, and I said to you, what was the one thing you learned from your first term? You said, there are protected people. There's so much corruption, and there are protected people. Is that who you're referring to? Hillary Clinton is protected? She can delete whatever she wants and nothing happens?
Look what they do. Look what they do to Flynn and so many other people. Look at how they destroy these people. It's 24 years of putting radical liberals in there, and also Bush haters, Trump haters. They put the Bush people in there. Frankly, the Bush
24
people,
years
some
of
these
radical
losers
liberals,
used to work for
including the
Bush,
Bush
they're worse than,
administration.
they're worse
Okay,
than
my
the Obama
dude.
people. So I've got never Trumpers. I've got a combination of never Trumpers, and I've got the Clinton people and the Bush people. It's 24 years of some bad stuff, and we have great people too. I have great people, but we have some bad people, and we have.
Also, Abu Hashish, I guarantee you that I can find Muslims that can recognize that parts of China are good, parts of China are bad. Like, parts of Chinese policy are good, parts of Chinese policy are bad, okay? I guarantee you that I can. I guarantee you because I know them personally. Like, I know that your data set is not complete. I know that you personally also don't know every single Muslim person who exists. In fact, a couple of the leaders of Palestine in the past have supported China. Pretty strange that you diverge from your own leadership there in that regard. And guess what? They were both Muslim. So, like, maybe you need to learn your own history a little bit better, okay, bud?
People that somehow Bill has got to move. I don't know what's going on. You got everything. We found him. We caught him. But look at Hillary Clinton. Forget about what was on the emails. Okay, forget about what was on them. She said it was ballet, and it was her teacher's at her
Grandkids.
daughter's wedding, and it was a lot of nonsense. So she had 33,000 emails. Forget about what was on the emails. It's irrelevant. Although many of them were classified, highly classified, and you go to jail for that. But and they're in the State Department. But Mike Pompeo has been unable to get them out, which is very sad. Actually, I'm not happy about him for that reason. He was unable to get him out. I don't know why. You're running the State Department, you get him out. But
My dude, my dude, my dude, okay? China's was one of the biggest supporters of Palestine. Their support cooled off a little bit after Mao died, but since the 80s, they've maintained a pretty good relations with Palestine. In fact, a lot of Palestine's like ministers and like foreign dignitaries visit China on the regular and keep up good relations with China. China recognizes Palestine as a legitimate state. So, like, you coming in here and saying that, oh, you're dumb, you're ignorant, because no Palestinians support China. Like, no, you're the one who seems to be, like, grotesquely ignorant of your own people, okay? And you're just using that ignorance as a shield for your own racism against Chinese people. It's pretty gross, okay? But you know what? I love you very much, and I do hope you get better.
they're in the State Department.
Hope you overcome this
FBI's
personal
been
failing.
Slowly getting stuff out. You're seeing it. Rick Grenell has done a phenomenal job. John Ratcliffe has done a phenomenal job. And, you know, to be honest, Bill Barr's going to go down either as the greatest.
Wait. Abu Hashish, who's the we who's going to take Palestine back with force? Because, like, no, A, no, you're not. And B, if you're living in some delusional fantasy where the United States is going to intervene in Palestinian-Israeli relations in favor of Palestine, you've been smoking too much, my friend. You've been smoking a little bit too much of the green, because that's delusional thinking. Muslims will. How exactly? Because Israel is a nuclear-armed state. I don't think that if they were invaded, that it would go particularly well, considering that the United States would also intervene on their behalf. So, like, you're just being insane and delusional in this line of thinking. The path forward for Palestine is recognition from other foreign countries, and right now, China might be one of your biggest allies in that regard, okay? Like, again, there are a lot of things that China's doing wrong. I condemn and, like, obviously do not support the death camps or a lot of their violations of human rights, but also they do support Palestine, and that's something that I also do. And you know what? They also, like, are forward-thinking on infrastructure and are doing capitalism a lot better than the United States is. So, like, there are definitely some things that we could learn, even in a milquetoast liberal administration, from China that would improve the lives of people in the United States. You're just being kind of ridiculous, and you're being extremely ignorant. So again, do some research, learn about your own people, learn about your own people's foreign policy, learn about the foreign policy of Palestine and the history of that, and I think you will be in a much better position to advocate for what you actually want to accomplish, okay? Because right now, you secretly hoping for a world war with China and, like, having, like, weird wet dreams about it and, like, masturbatory fantasies about invading China as a Rambo-like super soldier are really childish and stupid. And also further fantasizing about a future in which both that happens and also Palestine is liberated by, like, a coalition of like Muslim states in the Middle East and has to go to war with both Israel and the United States. Like, that is also similarly apocalyptic and fantastical. Like, you're living in your own fantasy world that just enables your own racism. And I hope you get out of it someday. I really do. And And with that, I'm gonna ban you. But I do love you very much. You're just really bad at arguing, and you don't know what you're talking about on a wide range of these issues, okay? So go out there, educate yourself, find some reputable sources, and I hope the best for you, okay? And you did say you live in America, um, and so like I'm fighting for your rights too, friend. I just hope you grow out of this weird infantile like gonna fight the world mentality with violence because you're only gonna end up crushed and sad and racist with that sort of attitude, okay? And there you go. See, again, just advocate for what you're advocating for, friend. You didn't have to pretend for like, you know, 30 minutes that you had any actual interest in a conversation. Like you're just being goofy and silly in a way to get like weird attention from me. And like that's okay, but like don't waste my time. Just say what you want to say, okay? And like I believe in science, unlike you apparently, and I believe in sources and history, unlike you apparently. So I'm arguing from facts for all of my positions. You're just kind of arguing from feelings and like an inability to separate like two different distinct policy positions from one another because they're both related to the same entity. So work on that and you'll be in a much better place, my friend, okay? I love you very much, and I hope you do get better someday, okay? I mean, by the way, I enjoyed this conversation, okay? Like, I do want to be clear, like, I love it when people like you pop up in chat, and it does make me sad to ban you, but otherwise I'm just gonna keep getting distracted and wasting time with you. But again, I appreciate the conversation as lunatic and, like, insane as it was. I appreciate you, okay, friend? I do hope you get better. That was fun. Okay. Continuing on. Sorry.
Attorney General in the history of the country, or he's going to go down as a very sad situation. I mean, I'll be honest
It's
with you.
okay,
He's got
Slash.
all the
I am
information he needs.
magical.
They want to get more and more and more. They keep getting more. So you don't need any more. You got more stuff than anybody's ever had. Now, with Durham, I don't know what happened to Durham. We're going to find out what happened to Durham. But he's got so much stuff. Look, Mr. Horowitz was appointed by Obama. He wrote a
I love it when
approximately
people who don't know what they're
78 pages
talking
on
about come
Comey
into
that was
chat and they're
scathing.
just
Scathing.
talking their mouths off, being dumb.
And they didn't go after Comey.
Yep.
And even the New York Times, which is totally biased garbage, it's a terrible newspaper. It's totally a disgusting newspaper. It's
Disgusting
the
newspaper
enemy of
that I
the
read
people.
every day.
It writes stories. If I did something so good, they don't even want to talk about peace in the Middle East, no bloodshed. They don't want to talk about anything.
There hasn't been peace in the Middle East. There's still plenty of bloodshed, specifically caused by Trump's actions, okay?
Having to do with these are very dishonest people. But even they wrote a scathing report.
Remember when we just
when
abandoned the
Horowitz,
Kurds in the
Inspector
Middle
General
East?
Horowitz, who I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah,
I've
that was
never met him,
great.
but I have a lot of respect for him. Because he was an appointment by Obama, and he came up with a scathing report. Nothing happened with it. I mean, you didn't need anything else beyond that report. That report said he was a liar. He lied to Congress. He lied to everybody. That report was scathing. He did a scathing report in McCabe. McCabe goes out and gets a stupid television show like he's a little angel sitting on CNN, fake news CNN.
And he pulled out of the Senate hearing that he was supposed to do. Mr. President, I know you have to go. Just to recap, you're not going to do the next debate because it's virtual. You're feeling good. I know I want to make sure that the audience understands you're feeling good. Have you been tested recently? Can you tell us anything else about
I'll
your
be tested
condition?
very soon, but I'm essentially very clean. They say it's over a period of 6-7 days. And it was an amazing thing happened to me. I just went in and I didn't feel good. And that's okay. I expected at some point because I'm out there. I've got to be a leader. Winston Churchill didn't sit in his basement for 6 months. I got a lot of things doing. And again, when I want to say hello to Gold Star families, I'm not going to be in a basement saying, hey, I can't see you as you traveled in from California and all the different places. It's okay. And I figure at some point it's a tiny, liken it to a tiny little microscopic piece of dust. And it gets into your nose or your mouth or your eye, frankly, or something else, or you touch something. So I understand. And then you get better. But what's happened is the big thing.
Or you die. You get better or you die. Or you get sick for a very long time and have lasting complications.
Between Eli Lilly and Regeneron, these are two different companies. You take it. It's an antibody drug. You take it, and it beats the hell out of it. And I'm telling you, I could have walked out there 24 hours after I went in. I didn't even have to go in, frankly. I think it would have gone away by itself. 99.
I think it would have gone away by itself, guys.
Fairly substantial age has no problem. I mean, they can get it. They can feel a little sick.
I have a headache immediately after just listening to him talk about this.
The tiny percentage of senior citizens and all. So what I'm going to do is
tiny percentages. By the way, about 10% of senior citizens who get this do die. Okay.
Both great, but very similar. I'm going to send them free of charge.
How long will you be taking them?
I've stopped. I don't take them anymore. No, I don't take them anymore.
Okay.
I think I'm taking almost nothing. I think I'm finished with just about everything.
Oh, true, Ashley. Death does cleanse a body from the virus.
Steroid. It's not a heavy steroid. They have that go a little bit longer. But I'm almost not taking anything. I feel great. I mean, I'd rather do the interview with you in person rather than a telephone that obviously doesn't work very well.
Well, I'd like to come back to the White House soon to do another interview, Mr.
Oh,
President.
please let him infect Fox News because he thinks that he's clean. Please let him start bringing these clowns to the White House.
Congress made a request to see him. Everybody else I know gets indicted when they don't give that.
Fun fact, he is trying to claim that because Hillary Clinton and Obama and Joe Biden have had stuff requested by Congress, that's why they deserve to be arrested. Do you have any idea how many times the Trump administration has been requested to present different information or different people appear before Congress and just hasn't complied with those orders? Do you have any idea? Because it's a lot. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of times. Okay, guys. Yeah. Let's see in the coming weeks how many Fox anchors come down with coronavirus specifically because they met with the president.
They don't give. She destroyed 33,000 emails. Forget about the fact that they were classified. Let's go. Maybe Mike Pompeo finally finds them. Okay, but forget about
I remember
the fact that they
back in the day, Bill Clinton met with then sitting AG Loretta Lynch on a tarmac 3 days before Hillary was to have her interview with the FBI in that non-investigation.
Sure. And they talked about golf. And they talked about golf for 45 minutes, and they talked about their grandchildren. Well, that didn't... No. I've been on private planes all my life. I've never seen a plane stop on a tarmac to pick somebody up. It just doesn't happen. You know that better than I do. So let me just tell you, he went there, in my opinion, to talk about extending her for Attorney General or putting her in the Supreme Court if she doesn't.
I will admit that a lot of the Clinton stuff was very fishy, okay, guys? I'm going to admit that.
If you could find those papers. Well, that's what it is.
But also, bringing up Hillary Clinton now, after she's been irrelevant for,
this is
what?
Before my time.
How long now? 4 years?
On the emails and
5 years?
Many other things. She's crooked. She's crooked as hell. She's a
is
crooked person.
absolutely
And
ridiculous.
by the way, you talk about a transition of power. She's telling Biden.
Yeah, he can talk about how Bill Clinton met the sitting AG at the time. We can talk about how Trump met Epstein on his plane to his rape island. Okay.
We'll extend you an Attorney General, or we're going to give you the next Supreme Court justice case. We're going to give you the seat.
Wow. And then she told Jim Comey to call it a matter.
That's what they do.
She said call it a matter, not an investigation.
Call it a matter, and
That's right.
And the same thing with Comey. Look at the way Comey tried to.
Yeah, think of how much this interview has been about
they had a revolution in the FBI
not Joe Biden.
Tried to exonerate her.
Like,
the FBI,
why is he airing out this stuff from 4 years
they had
ago?
A revolution. You go back to the New York Post and you read what happened years ago. The people working in the FBI had a revolution when he let her go because instead of saying, we're letting
God
her
bless
go,
you for fighting
he
the
read
good
all
fight.
The charges. And the charges made her guilty as hell. She did this, she did that, we're letting her go. She did this, she did that. There were like 9 or 11 charges that she was all guilty. And then at the end, he said, and therefore we've decided to let her go. They had a revolution with the honest people of the FBI. So then he had to go back and reverse his tracks, and he had to go back and say, well, I'm going to go back and investigate it again. Then he did the investigation, right? But it was getting very close to the election. So he said, well, we won't be able, this will take years to do because they found the pervert's computer. So he said, it'll take years to go through all this stuff. So that was no good because that wouldn't clean her up for the election. Then he miraculously said, oh, we found a computer app that will allow us to go through 8,000 or 78,000.
Why are we still talking about Hillary Clinton's emails? Like 10 minutes of this interview has been dedicated to Hillary Clinton's emails. It's not 2016 anymore.
10 minutes. So it went from years of looking to he can do it in 10 minutes. There's a phony. There's no app that can do that. How can an app tell you? So 3 days later, he came out that she's clean. You know her big mistake? She was so traumatized by the whole thing that she never, ever built it up. It's her fault. I figured she'd have news conferences. You go back and look. She never looked. Comey gave her a pass. Comey gave her a pass, and she never talked about it.
What?
Then they all wiped their phones clean, and the Mueller report, 29 phones wiped clean. But, Mr. President, I want to ask you what you're doing what you want to do for the country in a second term, because you had a really wide tent at your convention.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Burgess Owens, Herschel Walker, Candace Owens, all of these people from the black community that have said very supportive things about you. Talk to us about what you want to do in a second term and why you think you are hearing this outreach from the black and minority community.
We have tremendous black community
going to talk about black
support,
jobs.
men and women, by the way, because I've done more for the black community than any president except Abraham Lincoln, and it's true. What I've done for criminal justice reform, opportunity zones, historically black colleges and universities.
He's reformed black policing, I'm sure.
Done what I've done
so many positives.
Other than Abraham Lincoln. I mean, to be honest with you, I say it, and people don't even challenge me.
La Mama, the Trump administration has almost nothing but private servers at this point, okay?
5 months before an election, they come back, they want the vote of the black voter, and they promise all sorts of things. The day after the election, they forget them for another 4 years. It's a disgrace, I'll tell you. But nobody's done what I've done. Look at historically black colleges. Obama wouldn't even fund them. They wouldn't give them any fund. I gave them 10 years worth of financing at a higher number than they asked for.
Remember when he threatened the funding of historically black universities?
Election,
remember that? Because I do.
Mothers, women watching who want the opportunity to have a choice when they send their kids to school. I don't understand why your critics are against school choice.
Well, not my critics. It's the Democrats. The Republicans love school choice, and they love charter schools.
You know why Republicans love school choice? It's because it's a way to segregate their kids from low-income areas. So basically, the way that our school systems are set up, school funding comes from property taxes in a lot of places. I'm not going to say it's 100% of places, but basically what ends up happening is in inner cities where a lot of poor people live, and where it's disproportionately black, rich white people will take their kids out of public school and put them into private schools. And so when you hear these policies about school choice, what they're really saying, and charter schools, what they're really saying is that they want to subsidize private schools at the expense of public schools. And further defunding public schools in order to further enrich the already relatively wealthy private schools. and which in a sense is like a form of corporate welfare, because you're taking money from the public tax dollars, and applying it to private companies that run these private schools, and also religious institutions that run these private schools. So like, it's that's why Democrats are against these kinds of policies, because we believe that every kid, no matter what their income is, deserves a quality education, and that we should be investing more in public schools, because public schools are available to the public, not just to rich kids. And I feel like that's a relatively straightforward thing, and Republicans act like, why are you against freedom? Well, true freedom is getting a good education and being able to navigate your life and find your passions and skill sets. And that's something that a lot of kids from poorer families can't do. So we should empower them to do that by properly funding public schools.
Schools. We have charter schools that are so successful, you wouldn't even believe it, that the same student in a charter school is like a great student. You put them in that public school system that's being destroyed by the unions, just absolutely what's happening there. Biden can't go away from the unions because he's got union support. I think I have a lot of union support. You want to know the truth. And by the way, teachers are teachers. We have to put them in the charter schools, too. You can put them in the charter schools. A teacher is a
part of the problem is because schools are underfunded. Teachers' unions have to constantly fight to get basic pay increases. That's why they need really vigilant union support.
They want to get rid of school choice. And school choice is the biggest civil rights gift of everything. They want to get rid of it because
school choice is the biggest civil rights gift of anything. No, it's just segregation as done by rich people. Okay? That's all school choice really means. It's a buzzword. It's a dog whistle for racists, or classists, for that matter. And the idea here is that if we were to eliminate school choice as a thing, if we were to just mandate you can only have public schools, that would mean that we could then put more funding into public schools. We could put more effort into that. Because you know what? One thing that rich people ensure happens with their children? Rich people ensure that the school that they go to is properly funded and has the support, has the supplies that it needs. Because right now, what happens is those rich people, they'll do fundraisers for that private school that's making private money off of those kids. So instead of pouring their effort and money into public schools to properly support their kids and the kids of other people who are lower income in their area, instead they're putting a bunch of rich people just pooling their money into one private institution that profits off of all of this. So if we got rid of school choice, it would actually raise the level of education and achievement of all children, not just the rich ones.
Because of the unions. The teachers' union controls Biden. And the radical left controls Biden. Biden won't be president for 2 months, okay? He won't be president for 2 months.
What does that mean? Does it mean he's going to drop dead, or is he going to quit?
You think he'll have to step down after 2 months?
He's not mentally capable of being president. You know that. Everybody knows that. Everybody that knows him. He can't be president. And this monster that was on stage with Mike Pence, who destroyed her last night, by the way. But this monster, she says, no, there won't be fracking. There won't be this. Everything she said is a lie.
Wait, what about Kamala Harris makes her a monster besides the fact that she's saying that?
Take a look at the manifesto. They agreed to that with Bernie Sanders and AOC plus 3, I call it.
Kamala endorsed the Green New Deal before she became vice president, which is not indicative of Biden's platform.
Open borders, crime pouring into our country. They want to have thousands of people that are murderers, rapists, just pour into.
Yeah, again, do you honestly think that the platform of Democrats is, yeah, we want more rapists, we want more murderers, and we want them to live next to all of you? No, this is just dog whistling hatred for brown people here. Like, it's just a way for him to appeal to secret racists and outright white supremacists, okay? Like, it's just fear mongering bullshit, and you shouldn't believe a word of it.
To our country, they could be very sick people. Our borders are sealed right now, except if you come in legally. And it's a great time that I got it done in time. 350 miles already.
Also, it's perfectly legal to enter the country to request asylum. In fact, you have to enter the United States in order to request asylum. You can't request asylum from the other side of the border. You have to enter the United States. That's like one of the first steps to legally requesting asylum. And you know what we do with those people who are legally requesting asylum? We round them up into ICE camps, into ICE concentration camps, and we hold them indefinitely. There are people who are held in ICE camps for 6 months, a year. And you know what they're doing now? In ICE camps, they are sexually abusing women, a lot of women, and also a lot of children. And then once the media gets wind of that and starts telling their story, starts talking about a lawsuit, they'll just deport the woman who is raped or molested, or deport the child in that case as well, so that they can't testify. So they're getting away with sexual abuse scot-free, and it's just rampant in these camps.
Of wall, that's had a huge difference.
You're right. Kamala Harris.
Sorry, rampant in these camps for people who came here legally to request asylum as part of their legal process. So we're the ones breaking the law here. And Gringo Nut, good point. There's so little oversight at these camps that one doctor at one camp was able to just perform mass hysterectomies on the women who were there, without their consent, or coercing them into having hysterectomies. If I recall, like, I think there was like a wall of wounds. Am I making that up? I watched a lot of horror movies recently. Of the fact that I came up with a result in the news about this from the New York Times does not bode well. I'm not going to look for it anymore. This is taking too long.
Said she wants
But
to eliminate
either way,
for the country.
forced sterilization qualifies as a genocide. So, yeah, not great.
Destroyed New York, yeah. It's destroyed New York. It's what's happened.
Do you think it'll come back?
What's happened in New York is one of the saddest things I've ever seen happen to a city. Now, it's happening in Chicago, too. It's all Democrat-run cities. The only way it's going to come back is you're going to have to find a young version of Rudy Giuliani. Otherwise,
yeah, La Mama, they're forcing women to undergo sterilizations in ICE camps. It's real sick.
Would Don Jr. do it?
They use their.
Would Don Jr. run for mayor in New York? Would Don Jr. do it?
No, I hope not, because he couldn't win as a Republican. He wouldn't have a chance. It's an all-Democrat city. I'm making actually play for the whole state. You know, I did well there, but in theory. See, the Republicans
also, if you're enjoying the content so far, please hit the follow button. Trying to build up a platform here. Greatly appreciate it.
Last time. It's not easy. And frankly, winning the Electoral College is tougher, in my opinion, than getting the popular vote.
Indeed, Archangel
I don't campaign
DeKalb.
in New York, Illinois, in California, because...
Also, keep in mind, when Donald Trump is talking about all the ways that these cities are failing, he's the president of the United States. He has the most power to do something out of almost anybody.
Lose almost anything. That was what the miracle was last time. I won Florida. I won North Carolina. I won Pennsylvania. I ran the board. I won South Carolina. I won Georgia. I won Michigan, which hadn't been won in decades and decades. And we should win it again because I brought so much business there, because she's the lockup queen. What she's done to that place is horrible. She's locked it up. She's got people like living in prison. The court just overturned her. They said what you're doing is unconstitutional. What they're doing to Wisconsin is horrible. Look what they're doing to Wisconsin.
Are you giving him? Are you letting him off the hook by not doing a debate because it's virtual?
No, I don't want to do a virtual debate because a virtual debate is a joke. There's no reason. I'm in great shape. I just, unlike Joe, I don't have the luxury of staying in a basement all day long. I'm running a country. You know, when Winston Churchill...
Oh my gosh, he's just repeating his talking points.
As Hitler was dropping bombs on London. You know that. You've heard that.
Also, Winston Churchill was not standing on top of buildings or making speeches during the Blitz, okay? He was not doing that. That's factually not true.
I can't stay in a basement, and he can. I mean,
so is that the reason you wanted to make sure people understood you were strong?
When he talks, the way he talks, he can't get sentences out. In fact, if I was criticized
so what do you
for
make
one
of
thing,
these polls, then, Mr. President?
I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't believe them. I don't believe the polls because we've never had this much support. They have a boat thing. They have 5,000 boats. They have thousands of trucks all over the country.
I saw one.
Don't believe the polls.
Saw one in my neighborhood.
Maria, I don't believe the polls. And you had the same
He's pulling a Skyrim NPC. True.
I had one last time. I was 9 down in 9 different states, and I won all of them. I was in 9 states. I was down, big ones. I won every one of them. The polls are rigged, just like the reporters.
I mean, we're basically done.
Very dishonest media.
Yeah.
He's on the media talking with a woman.
Does not want to focus. The mainstream media has not focused
You're
on many of your
part of the
successes.
mainstream media.
Peace program that you are leading. Are we going to see more countries announce that they will normalize relations with Israel?
Yeah, we're going to have more countries come in, and they're all lined up already. It's like I've done it totally different. They put me up for a
Fox is actually the most popular media platform in the United States, okay? Like, they're the epitome of mainstream media.
Think of it. You get nominated for a Nobel Prize, you don't even get a story. They don't even write about it. They don't even talk about it. It's disgusting, frankly. Obama got one. Nobody even, like his first couple of weeks in office, nobody even knew what he did. And he didn't know what he did. When they asked him, why are you getting it, he had no clue. But he got it because he's a liberal Democrat, and life is a lot easier. Tell you, life is a lot easier on the other side, but this is the side that works.
Why is it easier on the other side? Why is it easier for liberals?
Safe and law and order. Because you take a look at what's happening in Portland and Chicago and New York, and every one of them is radical left Democrats, and they're destroying those cities. And if I'm the only thing standing in the way,
I'm the only thing standing in the way. I'm the only one who can stop it.
Taxes will double and triple and quadruple. Your stock markets will crash. We'll have a depression, the likes of which we've never seen before.
Now, this is true. We might have a depression, the likes of which we've never seen before. However, it's entirely because of coronavirus and capitalism and the poor handling of both underneath President Trump, okay?
I feel great. Thanks a lot, Maria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Well, that was certainly a thing. Holy buckets. So, you step away for a second. Is he claiming that he was nominated for a Peace Prize, but the fake news ignored it? He's claiming a whole lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense there, Mithril Mist. He's claiming a whole lot of stuff. Trump personally disperses the masses by walking around without a mask. Yeah, I mean, he basically just single-handedly took credit as the only thing holding our country together amid protests that are just demanding basic justice for police murders. Like, murders perpetrated by the police. And he's claiming that that is tearing our country apart, which is pretty insane. It seems like maybe the solution here is reforming the police somewhat. And again, my personal position is that we should launch up a second version of the police, like a sequel to the police, Police 2. And instead of having like armed cops, instead, Police 2 will consist entirely of social workers. And you call 912 instead, and you get an unarmed officer who comes out and is just a social worker. I think that would actually work. Now, why don't conservatives want to fund Police 2? I ask you, why won't they properly fund Police 2? They're just unpatriotic. They want to see the country burn. I thought Dems loved murder. Yeah, like that's basically what a good chunk of that interview was him claiming that Democrats just love having rapists around and murderers. Like that's the left's favorite thing, is just surrounding ourselves with people who are violent and evil. Um, yeah, Breonna Taylor's murderers did not get charged in court. And it turns out there was a story I was going to cover a little bit ago, but kind of fell through the cracks because of everything else going on right now. But basically, the grand jury that was kind of put in charge of this was the attorney there prosecuting the cops basically recommended like no charges, and then the grand jury kind of went through everything, and apparently now a number of the jurors who were involved with that want the video of the grand jury proceedings to be released, because they say that the whole story is not coming out about what happened during their during their meetings, which is interesting. I hope that tape does come out. Maybe we'll learn a bit more about what went on there. Police 1 is broken, please nerf. True. It's like, you know what? It's like Team Fortress 1 and then Team Fortress 2, okay? Why aren't you... What? Like, we have Team Fortress Classic. I think we should pull some resources from that and really invest in Team Fortress 2, okay?